I think the biggest thing I found is you have a finite amount of customers, but within that customer set, you can have multiple personas, and that's the really fascinating thing. If you can present the really good things you do in a business to a customer digitally in a way that helps them, it's a great opportunity. It really is. Often those places that you need to spend more time is going to be, is digital going to replace my job? And I think my view is it should enhance jobs, not replace them.
Welcome to the B2B Experience, brought to you by Big Light, Europe's leading independent experience design agency. In this podcast series, we speak to digital pioneers in B2B and tell stories of breaking down barriers and delivering change. I'm Steve Borges, and my guest today is David Williams, who after 20 years experience in e-commerce, working with some of the biggest brands in the world, decided to take the plunge and move over to B2B. Welcome, David.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, I thought I'd take you back 20 years and ask what drew you into e-commerce in the first place?
Like everything, it's the opportunity. I could see the gap that this was going to be an area of growth. I worked in publishing and Amazon was growing and Bol.com and another Play.com. So I decided to make the leap of faith and jump across and not look back. 25 years ago.
25 years ago. You ended up in quite a big job looking after EMEA and Japan across e-com and retail for Deckers.
Yeah, I moved across into the direct-to-consumer side of things, selling brands directly to consumers. Initially kicked off at Bowers & Wilkins, as you know, Steve, because we worked there. And then Deckers brands, obviously, after that was an American company selling Ugg boots and Teva mountain shoes. And eventually the Hoka running brand, which is absolutely flying. I moved across to that to set up the European business, and it grew from there. So start in the UK, grow out internationally across Europe, and then take on other opportunities for transformations. So I did a Japanese transformation of their e-commerce business. And as you said, at one point started overseeing the retail estate for the Ugg brand in Europe, which was an interesting time.
And then you made the move to B2B.
Yeah, a bit of a period of doing consultancy, but then moved over to B2B. So I think the common theme here really is, and I think this is for any professionals out there. There'll be B2B professionals who will look at this, and who have always worked in B2B. And I know people who've worked in one vertical. They've always worked in fashion, or they've always worked in a retailer. I think I've always seen, where is the next opportunity? Where is the next place of growth, of need of digital maturity? The one that needs some transformation, and it, from what I can see from the outside, B2B, e-commerce especially, looked like a real big opportunity.
And so take me back to the day you made that decision. What happened?
Well, I had to wrestle with myself and go, I'm used to this, trying to get customers by inspiring them, working with marketing teams to inspire them out in the ether, to come visit the website to buy a product that they might buy once, and looking at B2B and going, but this is quite dry. But when you started looking underneath the hood and you saw some of the complexities and some of the opportunities, it became a bit of a no-brainer to move across.
And presumably, big job, big team, big budgets, and a bit of a change when you got to the other side.
Yeah, no big teams, no big budgets. It's again, very nascent, I think, compared to previously. It reminds me of the early days of catalog businesses moving online, because it's an obvious place to bring a catalog. If you're a distribution business selling product online, e-commerce is clearly the most obvious thing to do. The systems are set up. There's a lot more underneath the hood that you do need to do, but ultimately you can put products online and sell them. So I think it reminds me of that. And that element of it's a lot of work, but it's relatively simple to do and can be cost effective. It's everything else around it digitally that I think in B2C that we're used to working with, which is much more around marketing technologies, customer experience technologies, content management platforms, CRM platforms, etc., that you might not see in B2B.
What would you say your biggest surprises were about how B2B operates really compared to B2B? Because I'm sure we will have a perception of things from the outside that can be challenged when we're on the inside.
One is fascinating. Where the fascination to me, I'd say, is behind the login. So if you're going to B2B, your addressable audience is relatively small. So if you're used to performance marketing and doing big TikTok campaigns, and although TikTok does actually work in B2B, ironically, but TikTok, Facebook social campaigns, influencer, Instagram, and harnessing that to drive traffic to a website, it's not that.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I found is you have a finite amount of customers, but within that customer set, you can have multiple personas, and that's the really fascinating thing. So you can have the person who started the trade account with your business. You can have the procurement manager who's making all the decisions, or you can just have an assistant who's just buying repeat purchase of products, and they all use the same website. They often have the same account, and you have to give them a different customer experience depending on what they do. So there's that complexity. There's also the complexity of pricing underneath the hood. The pricing really surprised me how complicated it can be. And then finally, everything you need to manage all the organizational financial elements and service elements was something that was also very new. You don't have that when you're in B2C. It's just one click, product, buy, ship.
There is a perception, isn't there, in speaking for my experience in direct to consumer, that B2B is somehow behind the curve, is lacking sophistication. Or what's been your real experience of that?
I think there is an element of technological lack of sophistication in some areas. I think some of the e-commerce platforms that I've seen out there, the B2B e-commerce platforms, I go down Oro, Striker, obviously SAP, etc. They've got some amazing functionality. So there is a lot of complexity and built into the platforms that people use, and therefore I would say that people in B2B e-commerce have much more understanding of all the other nuances underneath that from a trading perspective.
Yeah.
I think where I feel it's probably less developed is around the customer experience side of things. Ultimately, I think where it is behind, and this is from conversations I've had and presentations I've seen in change management, the rest of the business is a little bit reticent to take it on board. And that reminds me of retail, catalog 15 years ago, retail maybe 10 years ago. That there's a reticence to take on digital. You're taking my job, you're taking my customers, rather than that's where the customer is, and doing these things right will make your job more effective.
So interesting that the two elements you picked out, one is the understanding of the customer and the customer experience, and the other is the impact of change on people's jobs. Where do you think the opportunity is for B2B e-commerce in general to get better at focusing on the customer and customer needs?
I think the good thing is there are a lot of tools out there that can be used that are very straightforward. There are customer surveys. There are ways of garnering insights by talking to your customers and getting feedback from them, finding ways just to harness that information and then build a way for them to input that into a continuous improvement backlog. You can go, hey, well, the customers have said, for example, my password doesn't work properly on my account. And sometimes the reason for that is because they have multiple accounts, because someone has a procurement account, someone else has another account. So putting in some quick wins there around why you might have this problem reduces that frustration and then allows them to log in and just gives a better experience. And those are the sorts of things that I think where a lot of B2B companies have access, close relationships with some of their customers. Again, it's using them as a source of what are the frustrations you have. So, but that has to be built into the business. And the current company I've been working with, and within some of the businesses, they've been really good at doing that. They've really taken that on board to improve what they do from a service perspective, from a website perspective, from a delivery operational perspective. And I think that's really important. So how do you feed that into your digital experiences to make things better? But always listening to what the customer says. Try and get that data is really important.
Thinking about your experience with B2B, where do you think the biggest opportunities are for B2B businesses to transform their digital experience they provide?
If I think of B2B e-commerce or other manufacturer with hundreds of thousands of SKUs, or there's so much knowledge in the business, and it's functional knowledge. It's not the where is my orders, etc. That's fine. This is functional product sales knowledge. If you can bring that information into your platform, that's going to be a great opportunity. And that's where Gen AI and language learning models can help you, because if you can harness the information that your sales team have, your outreach team have, emails backwards and forwards between category teams and call centers, but then the technical specification documents from the manufacturers to other information you've got, if you can pull that all in, that's a great opportunity for B2B, because B2B is much more factually based. It's about the function of what you're buying. There's not an inspiration of will this piece of clothing look good with my trousers, or there's none of that there. It's objective information, and that's where I think the opportunity can be.
Yes, yes, and but interesting though, it's factual, but every single project that I've been involved in B2B, where there are difficulties, they come down to confidence and trust, as well as the practical things. So do you see from what you've described with the AI tools, that's providing better information, but presumably it's growing confidence and trust?
Yeah, I think so. It goes back to like anywhere, but if you can show some quick wins like the ones I was talking about there, you gain more trust that we're doing this to improve the customer experience and drive order and sell through. And there is a confidence and trust. I think the other thing with B2B is a good example I probably use is customer journey mapping, showing where the customer pain points are. And I'd give an example of setting up a new account. Setting up a new account in B2B can be horribly painful. An example is setting up direct debit. Do you really want your customer, someone you've spent all that effort to try and get on board, to have to print out a form, sign it, send it to you, wait for it to go through the mailing system, to land on someone's desk, for them to check it off, to send it back to you? No, I mean, use an online tool. Find a partner that can do it, and you can cut out a week and a half of work. And times, if that's just one quick win, that iterative change and improvement is where you can gain trust. I guess try not to boil the ocean. Understand the customer journeys at every point, and look to cut one which is there down to that. If you can get digital self-service tools and get your website performing in a way that makes the customer's journey easier, then your existing teams, especially your sales teams, can go out and sell. So 80-20 rule. You don't want them doing 80% admin and 20% selling. You want it the other way around. So everything you can do there kind of help, and that gains the trust as well.
Excellent. So going back to the transition from B2C to B2B, are there any strategies or lessons from B2C that you found especially useful in B2B that maybe when you started to apply them, they were new to the people around you?
I think the first one that I did, and I did this previously in the consulting role, having kind of pioneered it at Deckers in Europe, was moving to agile for changes. So all the examples I've used would not have happened without being in an agile, working in an agile way. So small iterative changes, continuous improvement done regularly. I think the other thing, if you're coming in, is understanding your customer experience chain. So in B2C, you're very much used to the awareness, consideration, purchase, loyalty, and rinse and repeat. I think spending that time to understand, like I said, that more complex process for new customer onboarding is very different and longer. So there's a lot more complexity there. Start customer out. Go and spend time with someone going to a customer. Spend time with the sales team, the people who talk to customers, and then work your way in. If you can get that information, it doesn't have to be face to face, but it has to be information that comes from the customer's mouth or words or just listening in a call center.
Yeah.
We just came out with about a list of about 50 things after an hour of sitting in a call center.
Do you think in that context, because of obviously times have changed, the era of big IT-driven business transformation programs are over?
Yes, I think they are. I think with the changes in the speed in which technology is improved, I know everyone talks headless and composable, but it does allow you to have more business-ready tools that you want to have within your platform. So that legacy on-premise behemoth that you customize and build up technical debt on has to start going away. How do you get IT teams up to speed with what you need from that business side? But I think there's so much tech out there. There's a real opportunity for people in IT to take on board new learnings of new technologies.
So, thinking about the recent conference we both went to, I was struck by the contrast between the fact that most of the conversations were about the customer experience, data, and change management, but the majority of businesses there were e-commerce platforms and technologies. How much do you think the solutions to the problems over the next 5 years are going to be technical and platform, and how much of it are going to be more the people element?
Oh, I think it's more the people element. I think there's the change. I was taken as an example of Heineken with what they were doing in buy an app to support their customers, but it was in Mexico, proof of concept in Mexico, and it was just one location doing it. And you're thinking the technology's there, and it looked really good. And it was a great app, cross-selling, upselling to small customers if they wanted to. It was very self-serve. It was brilliant. So I think it tells you the text there, but the business is willing to invest, and it is a tough time at the moment for everybody to do that because of where we're at. As if you can present the really good things you do in a business to a customer digitally in a way that helps them, because we know B2B customers, it's all about time, it's about price, it's about, am I going to get what I need on time? If you can answer all those questions, if you can help improve all those things, it's a great opportunity. It really is.
Is there anything specifically that is particular to B2B that you wish you'd known about when you were in your fancy corner office with the big team outside waiting for a flight to Japan?
I think I kind of wish actually I spent more time with the wholesale teams in my previous companies to understand how they dealt with John Lewis or Zalando, and from a business perspective, and what that customer needs, and what you can do digitally. I think understanding that and the nuances, that's where the exciting stuff actually is. I wish I'd known more about than I did. But they were either B2B platform or B2C platform, and the B2C platforms were all about looking nice and content management systems and showing great stuff, and the B2Bs was all about function and form and pricing and all the other workflows that you need within it. So they didn't always cross over, and now they do. There's a lot more companies are doing both.
Are there any particular skills or changes of approach that you had to develop to succeed in a B2B environment, would you say?
I think the main one is to try and understand the businesses and try to understand the types of customers they are, their order patterns. Just as I said, that complexity of who are the personas within that business, really important that you understand who those are. And the other thing, which I would say, if you're in B2B, that most people from B2C don't always understand, is some of the financial machinations and approvals and the way that businesses work. What are the kind of services around what your offerings are in B2B? Because if you're selling a complicated product, understanding that product life cycle, that's another thing as well, I think. And then the final thing is getting your head around the differentiation of the content that you offer. It's not inspirational, it's functional with a little bit of time saving, problem solving, but ultimately it's, can you tell me all the information I need to buy this product right now? If you sell something that's wrong, or you give wrong information, and it could potentially have bad consequences, that's not a great thing. People need that information. They need to know that what they're getting is going to be the right thing. It's dry content, but it's really important. It's the stuff that in B2C often gets lost. It's really important in B2B.
Moving from a D2C organisation to a B2B organisation, did you have to hone your influencing skills?
Yeah.
Does the environment require you to behave differently to get things done?
Yes, I think it does. But I guess that's any time where you have a new role, you really need to spend a good couple of months just listening and taking it all in, and not going in there and like anywhere you go with the new position dictating that this is going to happen. So I think do that, and then you'll work out where the areas that you need to spend more time are.
Yeah.
Often those places that you need to spend more time, and I would say now in any company, is going to be, is digital going to replace my job? And I think my view is it should enhance jobs, not replace them. Understand those areas you don't understand that well, and then see where their concerns might be and try to say. So there's definitely an element of influencing you need to do there. What you can't do, I don't think, is go in there and say, well, I did this in D2C. You can't do that.
Thinking about your journey over the last 25 years from selling the first books online to where you are today in the next 15 years, where do you think the exciting developments are going to be? Is it going to be in D2C? Are we going to see a renaissance of that, or is it all going to be about B2B?
Oh, I certainly, first of all, on B2B, there is definitely a journey that's going to be happening. Digital transformation, I think, it's inevitable and needed because there are elements of the businesses that are so far behind. I think it's a really exciting time. I think back in the D2C world, I think that merging of D2C and B2B in some way that we talked about earlier, I think that element of merging and blurring of areas and maybe roles or the functions that start looking at much more holistically in those areas, I think that's another potential opportunity. And look, we know we know that the Gen AI and AI language models are going to change everything underneath fundamentally, but that's everywhere. I think from a business perspective, those are the two interesting areas to look at.
Thank you very much. So thanks for what I found a very interesting conversation about how much emphasis you put on understanding the customer, listening to the customer, even if that's via a proxy, but certainly it's the voice of the customer, understanding the customer journey in particular, breaking it down into smaller elements like the onboarding journey, and then the complexity of change management within B2B organizations, and particularly being sensitive to the impact that it might have on others. And I think the interesting reflection is that if you're joining an organization, spend a lot of time listening. No conversation in 2025 about digital commerce is complete without touching on Gen AI, of course. Do you see AI having a fundamental impact on the way that people buy the products they need to do their jobs?
I mean, absolutely. I think it's going to massively change, because all the way through the funnel, starting from Google with, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini, the conversation elements that are coming are going to fundamentally shift the old adage of go to a homepage or landing page, searching for product, looking at the product, making a decision, adding to basket. It's going to shift everything, because Gen AI will allow you to converse and to find out more about a product before you even land on a website, if your data is structured and in a good way. And then when you get on that website, you've got, maybe everyone's talked about AI agents and things. There's going to be a lot more technology in there that's going to answer all those questions for you. And I think that traditional way of purchasing something, if it's an individual product, certainly is going to shift and change. And I think I'm really curious to see how that changes things. I think the e-commerce journey as we know it is going to shift and change beyond anything we've known in the next couple of years. There we go.
That's a nice quote. So, David, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great conversation. Thanks very much for listening to or watching this episode of the B2B Experience, and catch you next time. Well, that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, then please don't forget to hit subscribe on your platform of choice. And if you'd like to find out more about how Big Light helps its clients discover the needs of their customers and deliver experiences that meet them, then check out our website or follow us on LinkedIn. I'll see you next time.